What's up, y'all? That's a great old polka called John Brosnan's, and I got it from a Danu recording, which I will link down below. I would definitely recommend you checking it out. It happens to be the middle tune, I believe, in that set. Really cool one, and it just kind of jumped out at me, and I don't play a lot of polkas on this channel, for no other reason, I guess, than they just don't seem to come up as often at the sessions that I tend to go to. So I don't think of them as much, but I was at one over the weekend, and this tune happened to come up, so I thought it'd be a fun one to break down. Today we're playing this tune in the key of G, but this is a D whistle. I've also heard the tune in D. In fact, that's how it was played over the weekend. First time I'd ever heard it in that key. So I'm gonna play it the way that I learned it from the band Danu again, and that is in the key of G. So here we go, nice and easy with the basic melody first of all, just starting with the A part. That's the first half of it, and I will say the nice thing about polkas is they're usually kind of simple, fairly repetitive, and the parts tend to be a little shorter. Now they are played a little quicker often, but hopefully in the long run fewer notes to have to work out. Let's do the second half, and then we'll come back and put it all together so you can kind of get it in context. Here we're going to start with a bit of a pickup note, that's a B, and then back to the G here. And that's the whole A part. That whole thing would then repeat. So let's put it together and we'll see how we do. Here we go. Nice and slow, nice and easy. Here we go. That's the whole thing. And again, that would be played twice through, and then we carry on with the B part. Before we get to that, though, if you're digging this tune, if you're digging this sort of stuff, please do give me the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you're not already. They tell me it helps. The B part jumps up into the second octave here, so we're going to start with that, still nice and easy. Not a whole lot of notes, again, fairly stays in one spot, I guess, so that's kind of cool. Here's the second half, still nice and easy. Same resolution as the A part. We'll run it all the way through one time, see if you can get a good handle on it. Here we go. Success, I hope. This tune is a three-part tune. Hopefully you caught that when we were running through it in the beginning there. So if there's a lot of notes, if there's too many notes, I do have the sheet music and tabs available on my Patreon. If you're interested, I definitely recommend folks try to learn by ear whenever possible, but if you think it might help, feel free to check that out. The C part of this tune comes with it a high pitch, high volume warning, because not only is it in the second octave like the B part, it goes all the way up to the second octave B and kind of hangs out there for a second. So be mindful of your surroundings and any people around you that you might care about, but here we go. That's the first half, and fortunately at this point we are out of the high pitch zone. The rest of it kind of is a little bit more mellow. So here we go, carry right on into that. And now we'll play it all the way through the final C part here, once through, just so you can get the hang of that. Here we go. Hopefully that worked all right. We're going to now play the whole tune, just the basic melody, still at that same kind of mellow tempo, and just see how you do. We'll play it A, A, B, B, C, C, so to kind of keep things in context of how you would actually be playing this. So here we go. Let's see how we do. hopefully you're able to get through a fair bit of that. Maybe mark where that is, and you can always go back and run that, use that as a practice tool before we carry on with all the ornaments. A couple of slides, a couple of cuts, things you might be able to try right off the top. Sliding into that first note, I think has just a fun way to start this tune, and if you have the opportunity, I think it works. So a couple of taps is how I like to do that. I tend to prefer the tap to the cut in certain situations. I don't know that I could put my finger on why, except that it seems a bit more subtle, and I feel like sometimes that works a bit better. So the way I'm doing it is just has a nice little subtle popping effect, I think. So then sliding to finish that phrase, and then tap to kind of give it that little punctuation mark to repeat that note. For practice purposes, I would recommend mixing that up. Try those taps in different spots, try slides in different spots. A couple of other options, just to give yourself a little bit of variety as you're playing it. When we jump up to the second octave G in the B part, I'm almost always going to slide that. Couple of reasons. One, I think it just sounds nice, but two, it's a bit confidence-inducing because you can come at that note from the one below it, and the note below the note is always going to be a bit easier to get in the second octave. Not a whole lot else different on that kind of descending line, but when I get an opportunity to slide that E, that's a really characteristic whistle sound, so I like to use that when I can. And for some reason, it just sounds great to my ears. Slide and then a tap. I use that particular combination of things whenever I can as well. It just sounds nice to me. A lot of slides through that for the same reason that I mentioned in the B part. It makes the notes a lot more stable and you can feel a little bit more confident getting to them. Particularly that high B. It's real easy to break that note if you're not super comfortable with the amount of air pressure that you need. So that's, I guess, tip number one is make sure that you're as comfortable as you can be. But sliding into it from the note below gives it a bit of a cushion, a little bit of a safety zone maybe. I don't know what you want to call it. So here we go. Now I did cut that second octave B, sort of throwing in an extra note, subdividing that. That's one where you're going to want to have confidence because, again, it's easy to break that note. So it's an option, keep it in mind, but you don't necessarily have to do it. Tap on the G and then those same slides on the E's because, again, I just like the sound of it. And then a nice sort of landing zone tap slide thing to land on that G. Nice punctuation mark again to finish that phrase. So that's what I do with this tune. If you're interested in some of the more advanced ornamentation, there's a couple of other things that we can throw in there if you so desire. That's also available on my Patreon that I've got linked down below. Let me know if you want to hear some more polkas. I don't know a million of them, but I know a few, and if people are into them, I'd be happy to roll them out. So let me know what you want to hear, and I'll see you all on the next one. Cheers, guys.